Good evening, all. Tonight, we're going to make, at least first things first, is another honey dipper jar. I just made one less than a week ago, something like that. Took it down to the market where we have a booth. Took that on Monday, and as things would go, if somebody liked it well enough or something, because they bought the dumb thing, so now I get to make another one. Another one of them things that wouldn't necessarily think would sell very well, but it did. So off we go again, make another one. I guess if one good thing, not hard to make, so. Because I have to look at my phone to tell me what day of the week it is. If you want an honest answer, that would be an honest answer. And that's half the time of gotta look and see what day of the week it is. Very true statement. Very not dovetailed dependent. That's yeah. Yeah, that's right. I just had one of the guys that I used to work with just called me the other day. He said, "Well, how's retirement going?" I'm like, "Good." He goes, "Well, what's so different?" I said, "Because when I get up in the morning, it's like I don't need to worry about what I'm gonna do. It's like I'm gonna do whatever I sort of feel like doing." So yeah, that's a bit of a difference. And like you say, if I don't get it done today, tomorrow's another day, or the day after, whichever. There's no real sense of get up before sort of had plan your days off to make sure you get everything that you need done. Now it just kind of doesn't matter. We get done what we get done and do what we want to do and hopefully have a little bit of fun with it. Kind of the only one of the challenging parts, I guess you'd say, on these would be that well, started out with a square block, but we have to recess the lid in here. That seems to be the most really the most amount of work there is to when making one of these. We get it round down here. Not that it really makes a whole heck of a lot of difference. The main point is to get the inside, and then we'll make a shape on the outside. It's still not quite round. So, need the lid. What animal put that lid on? So we need a dimension, or measurement, I guess you'd say, for the outside of this lid. We want this to fit pretty snugly in there. So go on the side of smaller than bigger. Of course, they're not really overly spectacular. We'll keep that handy because we'll need that, I'm sure. So that should be the inside of our lid. There's a couple ways we can get a lot of this out of here because it is sort of would be bowl oriented, so I can use my bowl gouge to get rid of a lot of this. Of course, we also don't want to make it too deep right off the bat. And we'll square up the sides, and you got to get quite a bit. We use our scraper to do that, which will give me a nice straight side. Just hopefully give us a nice straight side. And we're not close, so that's always a plus. We'll trim for that edge a little bit. Straighten that out a little bit. Really don't look like I'm necessarily. We're getting there. I think it would be easier if I take the 2 seconds out and switch scrapers because I have one. This one I have to be well above center because it's still a square bar. So I got to be way above center so the bottom of it doesn't hit, which is what it's doing right now. I'm nowhere near changing it. So I got to go up higher because it's not allowing me to go in straight because the bottom of the bar is hitting. Now it did. You can see little burnish lines in there where it wasn't going in. Isn't that beautiful? Fourth time's a charm. No, we're just not deep enough. Just don't push too hard. Get the dumb thing stuck in there. Need to switch scrapers. I have one that the sides ground off of. It'll make it easier. It's still a little bit snug on the outside. We don't have to have a super perfect fit either. This also is going to need a little bit of a place for that little, what do you want to call it, a little rim like on the thing. Go to. Still not deep enough. Should be able to drop back down a little bit, make it a little easier. Still need to be headed downhill a little bit because it is a traditional scraper, but it doesn't need to be way downhill. The really hard part is to actually figure out whether you're even remotely flat on the bottom. I don't know that it really matters too terribly much. If we could go down just a shade bit more. Still plenty snug. Be beneficial if I can make this actually pretty snug that it wants to stay in on its own, because I have to drill a hole for this dumb thing. Okay. I think that's the fit that I want. Like there's a couple little wormholes right there, so shit. Don't want that. We gotta get rid of the things we don't want. Of course, now that we did that, now we'll have to make it a little deeper. Just recess back where it belongs. Kind of like that. Maybe. Come on. Out the recess a little bit. There. Felt like it was hitting over there too. So I started out with a fairly thick piece of material. Of course, I'm gonna cheat on this one. You can get this done with about 1 inch thick material, which is what I did on the last one. There we go. That's what we're looking for. Now the fun part. This will probably spin easy enough. And now we gotta try and drill the hole through this without destroying the lid. I think we'll grab a little bit of tape to try and hold it fast. Not sure whether that'll work or not. Worth a try, just to keep it from spinning. The drill bit makes contact with it. Doesn't have to be a real pretty hole because it'll get covered up, but it wants to be centered, at least as best as I can. And it wants to be about 3/8 of an inch. Now let's see if we can send things flying. Or slow our speed down. Go really nice and slow. Wow. I hate when a plan comes together. That's an interesting thought. I would have never figured that would have drilled a nice clean hole. Live and learn. Some days things work, some days they don't. Probably more days they don't than they do. Nice clean hole. A little bit of crap on the back side of it, but take a file. Left a little burr up there. I'll just take a file to it or something or other. But other than that, that's a drill a clean hole. Just a plus. So I guess while this drill bit's in, we might as well not get too carried away. Oh, else fails. Measure. Measuring is kind of free, so just eyeballing the measurement even. So about 1.125 deep. I could probably go down just a little bit more, about another 1/8 of an inch maybe. I don't know that it necessarily would have to though, but definitely don't want a hole poking through the knob at the top. Would not be a good day. Would cause me more work. Last ones I did them in 2 pieces. did the base and then added the top to it. This time we're going to do it the other way around because I found some 8/4 material that I had that's big enough for it. That's our interior hole. We're going to need that measurement here in a little bit, so I might as well get it while I can get it. Although it's not going to be very cooperative. Yeah, a little bit. There we go. Who wants to bug me now? Oh, wait. She's had a cold, so she hasn't been doing anything this week. So now she feels better today. And her and the daughter out running around. So let's get this truly round. How close are we? Yeah, a little bit off of it. The other one that I did sort of a little bit of a cove sort of in there. We'll just get it started from this side. I'm going to flip it around. Just don't want to make it too deep of a cove. I want to make the outside bigger than the inside. Would not be a good situation. Get rid of the sharp corner. And really only one time to get at this, and it's going to be right now. So we'll just give this bottom a little bit of a sand. Wonders of this goofy little project like this is we don't need to sand to our normal grit level because I'm going to finish this with beeswax. Matter of fact, when I'm thinking of it, I might as well do the bottom, the little bottom piece right now. I won't necessarily be able to get back to it later. So that takes care of that. And we need to know our depth there, plus a little bit, not far off, don't think. So now, all goes well, which it should. I'm getting ahead of myself on that number a little bit because I need that. So right just above where that's at should work. We add another 1/8 of an inch or so there. And keep the little small brain intact on what we're doing. So rather than getting totally out of whack, we know that's about where the bottom is at there. So if I add another 1/8 of an inch or so there, and then we'll go from there. If that makes remotely sense. Looks a bit thick, but we'll check it here in a minute or so. Get my knob down to about where it wants to be, closer to where it wants to be. Get rid of the hole in the middle. Spindle gouge will be our friend in this situation. Allow me to get in there a little tighter. Okay, so that's roughly where we're going with it. Have to clean up a little bit here and there, but I'm more interested in being able to put my little fingers in here. Of course, fingers don't always tell the situation. So my daddy don't yell at me because I left the chuck key in where it doesn't belong. We can use our calipers and see. Oh, we got tons of material. The important places out here. We still have solid 3/8 of an inch. To be able to get in there, we got a 1/2 inch on the knob from the hole to the top of the knob, so we got room all the way around. So we'll make this a little bit more dome shaped. I think that's my plan. Since we had enough up there, we'll make that a little dome as well. Knock off the sharp corner. Clean that up a little bit. Now we gotta clip the whole way down. I should have did a little more work on the inside when I was there. That sharp corner. Left a little goober in there. Other than that, I think that'll work. So, as usual, we're back to the typical sand, sand, and sand some more. might have to do a little bit of something different in there. It's going to be almost impossible for me to get in there and stand without grinding my fingers off. We need to cut it cleaner. I'll get this top part sanded first. Because there is another tiny little recess in there. I should be able to hold it on that little recess to be able to stand. I wouldn't want to try. I don't think I'd want to try on that recess in there to recut anything, but sanding wise, if we can get her done. That's if we were really, really brave and dumb, if I am. So I think we'll put a little bit of a character and put a little texture on the top here. If only I remembered what I did with the texturing tool. I just had it and probably put it back where it belongs. Yep. Wonders never cease to amaze. So we'll see if we can get this right and get a little. Teeny tiny little. It didn't quite do what I wanted it to do. Not unusual. But it gave it a little character in the middle. A little texture on here. Kind of just because. Give it a little visual interest, I guess you'd say. I guess we're so minded we would actually highlight them a little bit. So I figured I won't be able to see the dumb things. See where the end is at. So a little pencil line will help. Smarter than the average bear. You would do this before you ever sanded a thing. That'll make it look better. Now we'll just do a little bit of resanding on it because I got pencil lines that need to be removed, and remove the little burrs that texturing tool leaves behind. So everything's nice and smooth. Get all the sawdust out of the texture. Yeah, gives it a little visual interest. You might not be able to see it real well, but we'll go back and we'll put our simple finish on this. Just a little beeswax. Actually, it's beeswax and mineral oil. And even a little, I guess it's one of them that has a little bit of carnauba wax in there as well. Gives it a little bit of protection. It is a food item, so it's all food safe. And looks like we got to put a little bit more in them. Didn't quite go down into that texture there. I figured it was going to be just the opposite. They're going to play how getting it back out of the texture. It'll dry. It would soak in and dry anyhow. Okay, that works. Yeah. This part. Use my other bowl gouge. It has a curve on it. I'm thinking dangerously. I think that'll let me go in there and just clean up that center part a little bit. Because there's a little bit of a ridge in there, which would become very difficult to sand. The ridge is gone. Little fine shavings come off, which is always what you're looking for. So it looks like I should go back a little bit further even. Almost like there's a little bit of disturbed grain right there. And we can get close. Should be able to get close enough to the chuck without hitting it. We'll find hairs. Didn't seem to help it a whole lot, but the wonders of the beeswax finishes, we don't have to be quite as fussy as what we would be on a piece that we're going to finish shiny. That teeny tiny little lip that I left in there is what we're going to hold on to it with now. Get the tool rest out of the road just in case it decides it doesn't want to cooperate. And we'll actually spin it in reverse to go with it, so it's going to go away from me if it decides to let loose, which it shouldn't. It's got left one, a couple little places. There's some little lines in there. No sharp edges. That'll work. Nice bit of beeswax on there. And that will be the lid complete. Hooray! So now our lid fits. The only thing I'm gonna have to mess with that little bit of metal that come up on it. It's a little texture. Come tomorrow, once this stuff, when you put the mineral oil in there, it just sort of keeps soaking it into the wood. So a little white down tomorrow. That'll be good. Now the interesting part. So that goes in there. Let me just leave that where it's at. So measurement for the bottom of the jar looks like 3 1/8. So if we go for the finishing out at about 3, should work. But we don't need a top anymore. And we don't need the lid for a while. So, chunk of cherries, probably in the neighborhood of about 4.5. That'll have too much than not enough. Now it becomes a spindle kind of a project. We'll mark centers. Go back to strictly overhead because that's where all the work's going to happen now. So there's Mark. Put some stuff away. And we'll put the real small live center as well as a small drive center. And this will become the territory of the skew, which I probably have to go sharpen. It was sharp. Need to be a little higher than that. I was working on some other stuff today. I was kind of using this as a scraper rather than its intended skew purpose. So we'll just put a fresh edge on both of them while we're at it. The wonders of a 3D printer. I'm working on making these little plastic blocks to be able to set the grinder really quick and easy and accurate, fairly accurate, so that we're not grinding a ton of material away each time because we're changing the bevel angle each and every time. Well, not quite as accurate as I thought it should be there. Need to take a little bit more off than what would be likable. So we're going to start. That's the big ones. The little ones. I should take care of that. And my big head was in the road. I forgot to take face shield off again. Oh well. Sorry. Can never get that squared away. Okay, so between centers we go. Plenty of speed. I don't want the little one first. Put it away so it don't drop on the floor. Get rid of the corners and get it down to the cylinder. Almost. Still feel like there's something there. Flat. Yep, still a little flat. Not that that would overly matter. The only place it matters is out on this end. This end we got a little bit of waste down here. Get the curve. It also looks like that's considerably too big. So let's start over. Let's make a curve. And so we only want that to be probably only about an inch long, I think. I think. And I wasn't having a very good day yesterday with this cue. I think I'll just, rather than quit, I don't really feel like making this twice. So I'll switch back over to our spindle gauge. Much less likely to have a do-over. Could have left myself a little bit more room down there, would have been better. Okay. And we'll go back to the skew for some V cuts. For the I need to have a place to go. So ideally about 5. So the magic, somebody's magic number. And we'll just make little V cuts into each one of those. both directions, which will cut nice and cleanly. As in, no sanding required. And sanding these will get done is to actually knock that sharp edge off of them. Okay, now, what did I say? 3 and something. A bigger ruler this time. Come on. These things are domed in the bottom. So about 3 1/8. So go on the side of a little shy because I don't have no recourse. And that's going to round down around that corner. Somewhere thereabouts. So we'll make it 3. There. And just make a party. They stand a little way. Just basically getting rid of some material. And that's way too fat. It's probably still a little bit too bulky, I think. I think we're going to set a dimension for our post that's going to go up in. It's going to be there. Now we know how small that can be. Get a little material out of there so I don't hit it. looks more like what we want. Clean up this last little bit here. Into the corner. Like such. Really didn't leave myself an overly abundance of room down here. It's going to create me a fair amount of work because of being stupid. Okay, so if that's right, let's do that while things are spinning now. So if that's our mark, not always nice to just set things, but so we're like right. Can always have too much there. That's the easiest thing to solve just by cutting it off. Yeah, welcome in, Jared. Jared, Jane. Okay, so that should be the length we need. Don't mind me, I think out loud a lot. That actually feels like it could be on the loose side, but that's okay because these get epoxied in. A little loose is never going to hurt anything on that part. So, give it a little sand. We'll sand a little finish. We'll flip it end for end. Sneak in there and sort of round those little. You do things with this view, it has a tendency to leave really sharp edges. So I want to soften them up a little bit. So that's that. Beeswax and paper towel. Use a paper towel to get rid of some of the excess dust. Get as many of them as we can. More speed will help. Melt the wax quicker. It is a honey dipper, so any wax that's left behind is certainly not going to hurt anything. Just don't look real nice when it's down in that groove. where you need them women fingernails to get in that groove. Okay, that's that. Now, since I was smart enough to have left a big enough end on there, so we can just flip it end for end. I can get rid of most of the rest of this. Down here, I don't want to necessarily want to take it the whole way off down here, because that's a spring-loaded drive center, so it's going to push it down into there if I would take it completely off. So we're going to take the majority of it. And I think that'll work. It would have been a whole lot easier if I would have left considerably more material there than what I did. I had the room, but was dumb enough not to utilize the space that I had available to me. So we'll sand that last little bit off. Quickest and easiest way to get rid of that. I'm going to get a piece of sandpaper. That symposium last weekend, so I was really well stocked in sandpaper now. It won't take much to remove this end. Would have been a grand idea to turn the dust collector on so I didn't suck all that fine dust. Nice gentle touch and spin it around. Knocks it sort of round it a little bit. A little bit of fine sandpaper and go over the end a little bit more. Not that we have to, for sure. Lose the noise. A little bit more of the beeswax. This is a beeswax that has mineral oil in it. Actually has a little more mineral oil in than probably what it necessarily needs to. It's really soft, which makes it easier to use for some of this simple stuff. And now we can use the trusty thumb fingernail to get any excess wax out of there. Now, since we have kind of an exacting kind of a measurement, semi-exacting, we go up there, so if we cut that off just behind that lug, and that should work. Time will tell whether I got the dimensions right or not. As long as I got the dimension in the in the right way, as in bigger than what I need. That's a little easier than smaller than what we need. If it's too small, then you could end up having to redo this again. There we go. Wow, we're not even close. Why are we not close? That's exciting. Thought I set that for that drill bit. It was hard to get in there. Yeah, I set it too big. What's new? But I discovered I did one like this, I don't know, about a week ago, something like that, maybe. I did the same thing where I got this tenant, this little dial, so to speak, way off. So it's like, oh, now we got an issue. But it ended up being not much of an issue, as long as I can remember where I put the little, made a little, basically a little jam block somewhere in amongst my junk. You gonna tell me I didn't keep it? Yes, I did. There it is. So in order to take more off, we actually need to get it back in between centers, or have some way of grabbing hold of that, which I don't have an easy way of grabbing that in. So we put it back there. A little bit of tiny little piece of fun foam would make that better, so don't booger up the end. And then we have our teeny tiny little live center. And I guess if we really wanted to be super scientific about it, we could possibly give us a couple little marks to at least get us in the ballpark. Not that it's going to make a whole big deal. That little piece of foam will just help it from, give it a little bit more of a grip, for one. So, not real close. And of course it has a cone, so it's not going to. That's better. I can live with that. We can probably live with that and actually make it, that's probably 3/8 of an inch right there. The one I did the other day, all I did was sand it. This one's not even remotely close. So I still really only have one big hole in there, sort of. So now we can just sneak up on it. And let's see, is that 3/8 of an inch? Yep, I got to go right down to that. That will fit in there. Anything to make an easy job harder. I'm down to that, so it should, in theory, should fit. As usual, though, it's the metal lid that's the problem. As far as the wood part goes, it fits. That's a little snug in there, so a little bit more, and then it'll be loose. And you can see where it's actually tapered. I don't have a you don't really have a true cylinder. Because we need to have a little bit of a gap in there. I can actually put couple little grooves in it. Gives it a place for the glue to go down in and sort of key into the piece of material. Now, I was thinking one more try. Maybe get the little bit smaller a parting tool out or something. I'm not getting quite in back in here. So I'll get the 1/8 inch parting tool just to get this last bit back here. Look at that burnish line, and then we're good. Okay. Now it fits. Now we have a different scenario of 1/16 of an inch too long. That's the easiest problem to solve. At least it sounds like the easiest. So it fits. It's one more time back on there. Give me a nice line to cut it on. So we'll just make a cut line back about there. So I know where I need to go to. We use our little piece of foam. Not the end of the world, but that's a pretty simple, wood turner. You gotta come up with some simple-minded things to make life easier. And it's just basically fixing your mistakes. In some ways, it's not necessarily, well, it is a mistake, but it's easily fixed. Just what I just did. Just what I just did. Because you never get a true hole, and it's extremely hard to make. That hole is not even flat on the bottom to start with. We'll just go back to our little disc sander, round these corners off. That was drilled with a twist drill bit, metal cutting drill bit, because of going through the lid. Now we're there. Of course, it's now that you play around with it long enough, it's not super snug fit in there. Let's see if we can do it upside down before I glue it together. Of course, the lid doesn't want to go on without. Come on. There's just not enough friction in there. But at any rate, we're a little farther off the bottom than what, in some ways, I would have liked it to have been, but there's not much I can do about that except make a new one, and that's not going to happen. So that's what it'll look like once it's all glued together. So a little bit of 5-minute epoxy under the lid on the shaft, and we'll glue it all together, and it'll be done. Ready for market tomorrow, basically. Other than that, that's going to be it for me. I'm going to go watch the Super Bowl, I guess, if it's on yet. It's supposed to be 6:30, but probably knowing them, they probably didn't even do kickoff yet. Anybody have any questions, comments? Now's the time, because we're going to call it a day.